Good evening, everyone. My name is John Hayes. I am a senior associate at Ideas 42, which is a nonprofit behavioral design lab here in the city. And I'm here to talk about how the city is using behavioral science to reduce FTA rates, or failure to appear rates, for summonses. So it's a little different topic than bail, but very much related in the insights that we've gathered. So what's the problem? So the city has a 39% failure to appear rate for summonses, which many of you may know are low-level non-arrestable offenses for things like public consumption of alcohol, riding a bike on the sidewalk, and public urination. And this is a problem because the second you don't show up for your court appearance, a warrant is issued for your arrest. In 2014, there were over 100,000 warrants issued because of a failure to appear. And how do we solve this? Like, what is a way that we can get more people to show up to court? One approach would be to take a little bit more of a traditional stance and maybe assume that the people who don't appear are, they have low regard for the law, or perhaps they're just irresponsible. And if you have those assumptions, it might lead you to a solution that would mean like increasing the punishment, increasing enforcement. But what if these are the wrong assumptions that we're making? What if there's another approach that we can take? And approach that my organization has been taking in partnership with the city and the state is one using behavioral science, or also known as behavioral economics, which is a field of study that looks at how human beings make decisions and how those decisions are influenced by the environment or the context. This combines insights from psychology, economics, sociology, and using this lens, we can actually uncover very different reasons why people may fail to appear. For instance, there might be some ambiguity as to what happens if you don't appear in court. There also is some fear around what will actually happen to you if you do show up. So my team and I engaged in some extensive research, both quantitatively and qualitatively, to look into the context of what's kind of going on in the context of getting the summons, as well as what's happening in people's minds when they're deciding whether or not to appear in court. So we analyzed 1.2 million past summons cases, as well as conducted over 36 one-on-one interviews with people who have previously received a summons and failed to appear. And what we uncovered is that there are three kind of pathways that lead to a failure to appear. The first of which is that some people immediately reject the idea of going to court. One of the confirmed hypotheses we found under this bucket was that for some people, they felt that the violation, the thing they were getting a ticket for, was too minor and didn't justify actually going to court. This was true for things like spitting or jaywalking. Those had higher failure to appear rates than things like disorderly conduct or marijuana possession. The second pathway to a failure to appear was that some people consider going to court, but ultimately they decide against it. One of the things that we uncovered here was that there is a common misperception that many people don't go to court. And if you think most people don't go, why would you? And then the third one that we uncovered was that some people actually have an intention of going to court, but for some reason they still fail to appear. And one of the most common contributing factors was there's a very long lag time between the time you're issued the summons and actually going to court. Sometimes that lag can be anywhere from 2 to 3 months, which is a long time for people to actually forget when and where their court appearance is. So using these insights and this deeper understanding of what's happening in the context, what's happening in people's minds as they're receiving the summons and making the decision whether or not to appear, we are actually engaging in a current study now, sending text message reminders to summon recipients and using these insights in the content of those messages. So for those that reject going to court, we're going to see if we can get them to reconsider by highlighting the consequences of failing to appear. For those that had that misperception of what most people do, if we correct that misperception, can we see a boost in appearance rates? And then finally, we call plan making, which is for those who have the intention of going, can we get them to think through the details of how and when they're going to actually go to court and see if that boosts appearance rates? So these are just a sample of the messages that we've designed and are currently testing with the courts, but it gives you an idea of how what we learned in the diagnosis phase is influencing the designs and the messages we're currently testing. So stay tuned for results. Hopefully in about 4 or 5 months, we'll have concrete results to show how and what content of these messages really do maximize the impact of these reminders. And I would be remiss to say, if I failed to mention that CJA, that Nick talked about earlier, has actually been doing this reminder work with desk appearance tickets for decades now. And this study really hopes to take that a step further and understand what content of these reminders is going to maximize the impacts of these texts. So thank you. I have my contact information for other questions. Thank you.